A decade before Milli Vanilli, the mastermind of Milli Vanilli named Frank Farian had assembled a group that would pave the way for how he would later market the ill-fated duo. The disco era was at its height, and Frank Farian was determined to make a name for himself. To his dismay, he had no success. In the mid-1960s, his label had forced him to abandon rock in favor of upbeat and happy pop, which he eventually gave up to become a producer. Frank had always had a love for Black American soul music, and would often imitate soul singers he grew up listening to while performing in clubs. "No one wanted my music," he recalls. "It was better from America. A white singer singing Black music wouldn't work. The record companies sent me back to German music." It wasn't until the mid-70s when he covered Baby Do You Wanna Bump that he would experience a breakthrough of some kind. He decided to release the song under the pseudonym Boney M, since it was so different from the material under his primary artist name. After the song made some waves, people wanted to see Boney M live. Instead of presenting himself to the public, he went out and hired 5 Black performers to front the group. They would lip-sync to Farian's vocals. The group had a lineup that changed quite a bit, but the most consistent lineup that is closely associated with the group is Marcia Barrett.
I've been singing here for 4 or 5 years as a solo artist. And I heard about this little group. I wasn't at all interested because I'm more of a solo type of person, you know. Went back to England because my family's there. Got settled down into a new house, everything. Came back 4 months later, and the space for this odd girl was still missing. So I thought, let's have a match.
Liz Mitchell.
Since I was playing in here, I started in 1970 in Berlin, and there, of course, was like a great outbreak for young talents. People like Donna Summer and, well, I don't even know that. Well, she's the only one that's made it in America from the European casts, Marsha Hunt, and I was luckily one of them, you know. And that's how it started for me. From there, it just didn't stop. I was the last one, actually. I guess they weren't planning on me, really. They only invited me to sort of sit in for 3 days, and that's it. I ended up staying. We produced the LP,
and the single,
and then the LP, and then the single was taken off, and it was released about April, but nothing happened with it. You see, but strangely enough, we all find it very strange because we got bookings like any big group. You know, every discotheque in town wanted to have Boney M, and nobody knew us. Really. And then when we returned after the summer into September, we were number 1.
Maisie Williams.
Asked me if I would like to join this group called Boney M. And, well, at the time I was doing my modeling and dancing. And naturally I said to her, okay, I could be interested. And so, here I am.
The Russians invited us.
They wanted us.
And frontman Bobby Farrell, who is known for his stage presence.
Pink potatoes.
What age? At 14?
15. I went to see. I was 15 years old when I went to see. Then I stopped in Norway, and then I went over to Holland, and I spent a while in Holland, about 3.5 years. Then I came over to Germany. Now I'm here 7 years now.
After the first hit, Frank Farian decided who was the most suitable for actually recording songs with him, and he settled on Marcia and Liz, who were the female counterparts, while Frank did all of the male vocals. Boney M albums had 5 Black performers on the covers. Boney M was the most perfect mix of Black and white music, but in America, music still had to be Black or white, Farian says. The real crossover didn't come into the late 70s, early 80s. According to Los Angeles Times, on the albums, he was mentioned only as a backup singer, and sometimes he wasn't mentioned as a singer at all. Boney M would go on to achieve great success with classic disco hits like Daddy Cool, Mom Baker, and Rasputin throughout the 70s. Not many people cared that Boney M didn't sing on their records, particularly in Europe, where they achieved the bulk of their success, because it had become a common practice in disco and dance music. In fact, it was known that most of the members didn't sing the tracks. and they would perform the songs live, although heavily assisted by background singers and backing tracks, so there would be no mess-ups. By the time the 80s came around and the disco era was over, the group would suffer a slump. Bobby Farrell departed from the group and was replaced by Reggie Saibo. Reggie, unlike Bobby, would sing on the Boney M records. Eventually, Bobby rejoined the group in 1984 and was able to contribute vocals to some of the recordings. Unfortunately, they didn't have much success in the 80s, and eventually disbanded in 1986. They would eventually break away from Farian and reclaim the group as their own, which led to a very messy legal battle over the Boney M name. There were allegedly letters that Frank Farian sent out warning club owners, DJs, and music publications not to hire the band illegally using the name Boney M. In due time, they were allowed to perform the Boney M songs after an agreement was reached in court. However, it turned into a bit of a messy situation, where each member was embarking on individual tours, so you had multiple different versions of Boney M touring the world at the same exact time. Liz Mitchell's lineup is the only one supported by Frank Farian, and she has worked with him consistently throughout her career. It is also alleged that Frank said Liz is the only irreplaceable member from the Boney M lineup. In 2002, Liz Mitchell, the lead singer of Boney M, warned other pop acts to be wary of greedy record companies. Boney M allegedly only received 9% of the profits from their music. An all too familiar tale that would be mirrored in Frank Farian's more infamous creation, Milli Vanilli. Boney M was created as a vehicle for Frank Farian to be able to sing Black American music. Boney M was massive in Europe, and his yearning for an American breakthrough would eventually lead him to create Milli Vanilli.